Buongiorno, buonasera, come va? Manu here, and really excited to see some of you already on the line. As usual, I have to check all the technology. I hope it's going well today. Please let me know if you can hear me and you can see me. Now, if the quality is not too good for you, for the video quality, at the bottom right of the video, there's a usual wheel that you see on YouTube that you can set the resolution for the video. I'll just give it another couple of minutes and then I'll start answering your questions. There's a bunch of questions and it's pretty exciting. So there's the usual 1 minute delay. So if you do ask a question using the live chat underneath the video, just give it a few minutes before I even receive it or before I can even address it. Okay, so let me just welcome some of you. Okay, I can see Dionysius. I can see Ed, Jeanette, Laurie. That's all I can see for now. Okay, hopefully we'll get enough people from your group to join the class. I realize it's not the most convenient time for everybody, but it's just impossible to have a convenient time for 24-hour time zones. But I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, and as we progress, we'll fine-tune the times, and may have 2 sessions one day, so I can reach more of you. All right, so I'll give it another minute or so before I start answering questions. But if you have further questions based on today's content, if you've had the chance to use it, to watch it, it's optional, but it's always good if you can expose yourself to a little bit of Italian every day. You're gonna get to Italy more prepared because you used. I mean, for the moment, it's mostly in English because I am explaining things. But soon, you'll start seeing videos of me speaking to you in Italian, and challenging you to understand what's going on. We're just building the foundations, and we do use English. My approach, while we're waiting another few minutes, my approach has always been comparative linguistics. So my background is in translation, and I went to this very prestigious university in Trieste, north of Italy, the best one in Italy for translation and interpreting. And it was a very challenging university, but what we learned was this thing called comparative linguistics, which is very, very effective in learning a language, and that's why they're so effective in teaching languages there. And it's using one language to explain the other. If you've heard, you probably heard me say this already, but I'm just checking if there's any comments. Yeah, cool. So you probably heard me already say something like this, but when we try and learn a new language only with the immersion method, which means we are taught the thing in the language that we're learning. In your case, if I taught to you Italian in Italian, which we do at the university, I just don't think it's the most effective method. You're kind of wiping out all your experience with your native language, which means, see, it's like if you can play the guitar and then you start playing the violin. Of course, they're different instruments, but guess what? You're not gonna delete all you know about music, about reading music sheet, about melody, about so many things you already know when you know how to play the guitar and you move to the violin. You should not eliminate those. So that's what comparative linguistics does. It uses your language to help you understand how the other language works. So let's get started. Let's get started. I assume you can hear me. I have to do something. Let's see if I can do this. I am assuming you can hear me. That's why I'm talking. But maybe if I write it down, you can let me know if you do hear me. I think you can, because I can see that Dionysius says that I pronounced his name well. That's great. Yeah. Hi, Laurie, Jeanette. Okay, good. So we're ready to start. I know that Jeanette has to leave soon, so let me see if I can get to your questions first. All right, so Jeanette says, I undertook a Survive Italy series, which was really useful and what led me to enroll in this course. One thing that you taught was how to say non c'è di che. Now, let me talk about what this is. You probably learned that the answer to grazie, thank you, is prego, you're welcome. So that would be the standard grazie, prego, thank you, you're welcome. Now, of course, like in English, there's so many ways of saying you're welcome. You don't have to say you're welcome. You can say, oh, no worries, like we say here, or what other ways are there? Thank you. Don't mention it. There's a few ways to answer. Well, Italian has the same. So what Jeanette is talking about is this reply, which is non c'è di che. It's spelled funny. Now, it's got the two difficult things of Italian spelling, the ch and the k, but don't worry. It's non c'è di che. Non c'è di che. It literally means there's no reason of which you should thank me. Okay, so non c'è di che. So that's what Jeanette is referring to. So grazie, non c'è di che. Thanks, don't mention it. No big deal. Great, cool way of answering. Now, she was wondering whether or not you could use the same response to sorry. So if somebody says mi dispiace, which means sorry. Somebody says mi dispiace. Can you say non c'è di che? Great question. I had to think about it. And no, you can't. There's a similar expression, but it's great that you brought it up. So if somebody says mi dispiace, and you want to say, like, that's okay, don't mention it, we say non fa niente. Non fa niente. Non fa niente. We always, every time you have a block of words, like in your language, we bring them together. We never pronounce individual words. Non fa niente. It literally means it does nothing or it makes nothing. That means it's no trouble for me. So if somebody says mi dispiace, I'm sorry, you can say non fa niente. It's like saying, that's okay, it's no big deal. And that would be the first question, the question to your first answer. The answer to your first question. And then you said, you've also taught us the vowel syllables, which helps to read Italian words even if we don't know them. However, when I've tried this, even though I'm pronouncing the word right, sometimes I'm accenting it incorrectly. Definitely not the easiest thing. I was just wondering whether there's a pattern in which syllables to accent. For example, some four-syllable words like andiamo are accented on the third syllable, like andiamo, but others like telefono, they have the accent on the second syllable, like telefono. Is there a way to know, or do we have to be familiar with the word first? The bad news is you have to be familiar with the word. So there are some categories of words that kind of give it away where the accent is going to fall, but they're just not enough to tell you that you can guess when a word ends like that. So you may have seen me share this pattern. Words end with "shon" in English and with "zione" in Italian. Well, for those words, you always stress the zione. For example, stazione, attenzione, animazione. So that would be a way of knowing that that's the accent, where the accent is falling. But for any other word, there is no real pattern. There's no real rule that says 5-syllable words, you stress the second. You really can't. I have a tool that you could use. Well, it's a double tool. So, but yeah, if you're speaking and you just want to know on the spot, probably difficult. If you're interacting with people, it's a lot easier because they will say the word first. So they will say telefono. So even if you thought that it was, because in English you say telephone, so you stress the te. So if you thought it was telefono, now you heard that it's telefono, so you know it's going to be right. So when you're interacting, it's not a big deal because probably they'll produce the word first in 70% of the times. But what if you're just wanting to say the word and you don't know? I recommend this double weapon. What's it called? Wordreferencecom. So first, I would go to wordreferencecom. I'm giving you online tools because most of us live off our mobile phones. So, but if you have a physical dictionary, that's even great. But dictionaries often give you a little way of knowing which syllable to stress. Each dictionary is different, so you'd have to look at the beginning of the dictionary where it explains how to read the instructions. But often a dictionary will do something like this. So after the word, so you say you look up telephone, and it says it's telefono, and then it will open brackets, and it will use a phonetic way of describing the word. Now, probably that's not the right phonetic transcription of telefono, but what dictionaries will do, they will have a way of telling you which syllable to stress. So a lot of dictionaries will put an apostrophe before the syllable that you're stressing. So in this case, the apostrophe is before the le, so it's telling you that you should stress the le, telefono. Some dictionaries put the apostrophe afterwards, so you gotta check that. Now, there's no real... I find Wordreferencecom to be the best online dictionary. There's other ones, but it's really good because it doesn't just say, I'm looking for, let's say, door, and it says porta. There's so many doors that you could talk about in English, and this dictionary will give you different meanings, different translations, depending on the door that you're thinking. It's a really good dictionary. It doesn't actually have a phonetic transcription of the word, so you can do this. So word reference, it's a multilingual dictionary, so you'd say I want to go from English to Italian, and then you say telephone, and it's going to tell you the Italian word, but not the pronunciation. But now you know what the Italian word is. So what you would do afterwards, you would go to another website. I know it's a lot of work, but that's the only way you can kind of be sure. It's called Dictionary. No, sorry, my mistake. It's Dizionario. That's the Italian word for dictionary. Dizionario.rai.it. Quindi dizionario.rai.it. It's an ugly website, but now that you know the Italian word, you enter the Italian word, and it's gonna give you, it's gonna pop out this window where it's going to pronounce it and also show you visually where the stress falls. So that's a tool that you can use to kind of learn new words if you don't have any Italian in front of you. I wish there was a better answer saying, there's a rule for stressing words, but there isn't. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. Now, moving on to more questions. I have a bunch, so I will try and speed the pace up. So, Ed says, when you refer to the Italian language, do we use l'italiano? And when referring to nationality, we use italiano. And same with l'inglese and inglese, or does it matter? So what Ed is talking about is the difference between the noun and the adjective. So the thing, which is the language, and the quality, like being Italian or being English. Most cases it's the same word, obviously, because if you're Italian, you speak Italian. If you're French, you speak French. But of course, there are exceptions, like if you're Australian, you speak English. There's no Australian language. So with some exceptions, it's always the same word. It's often the same word. Now, when you're talking about the noun, so the language, you can use the article. See, when Ed says l'italiano, he's saying the Italian, which is how Italians will talk about a language. So, io parlo l'italiano. But that l'apostrophe or whatever article is optional. So you don't have to say io parlo l'italiano. You can say io parlo italiano. And it's probably the most common way of saying it. Io parlo italiano, io parlo inglese, io parlo francese. So you end up with the same word being the noun and the adjective. The main difference is that the noun will never change gender. So you'll never say io parlo italiana, because the Italian language is masculine. Randomly, okay. But that's what it is. So io parlo italiano is what a man and a woman will say when they speak Italian. Italiano, it changes to italiana when it's describing somebody or something. So a male will say io sono italiano, I am Italian, and a woman would say io sono italiana. Also, if this telephone was Italian, I would say telefono italiano, Italian telephone. And if this pen was Italian, I would say penna italiana, because penna is a feminine word. In terms of you not caring about being perfect when you speak, I would say go with the masculine all the time if you have to make a mistake, because the masculine covers the language. And then if you forget to make an adjective feminine, sometimes it can be a big deal, and we'll talk about this later in the course, but at least you're getting the language right, so don't make the language feminine. Does it work the same for English? Yes. Io parlo inglese or io parlo l'inglese, I speak the English language, or simply io parlo inglese, still I speak the English language. And then io sono inglese for a man, and io sono inglese for a woman. Now this addresses a question that Domani has as well, which is about gender and agreement. Now, because the focus of the course is to get you to Italy and not to get you to speak perfectly, I will talk about it, but probably just remember, my goal here is to simplify it for you. So I will let you know when it's a big no-no to make a mistake and when it's okay to make a mistake. Because it's okay to make mistakes, especially because, like I mentioned in one of the videos, it's an icebreaker. It's an icebreaker to make a mistake. So don't be too harsh on yourself if you make mistakes initially. Also, get you to feel good about, yeah, I can communicate in this language. Yes, I make a bunch of mistakes, but I'm talking. It's going to keep you motivated, and then go on to a higher and higher level until the point of fluency if you're interested. So, going to masculine and feminine stuff. Oops. Most Italian words that are masculine end with O. Oops. They're masculine, and most feminine words end with A. We're talking about nouns, so things. Objects can be masculine or feminine. For example, we have telefono, it ends with O, and penna, it ends with A. This means this object is feminine, this object is masculine for no reason. Okay. You also have nouns that end with E. Like, for example, cane. Cane is a dog. There is no way for you to visually know what gender that is. So that would be one of the difficult cases. Now, for example, we have il cane for the dog. So later on, when you know how to say the, you'll see that that is a masculine word. Il pane, that's bread. Il pane. Okay, oops. But then we have la lente. Lente is a lens, it could be a contact lens or of your glasses. It's feminine for no reason, but it's la lente. So when a word ends with E, it's a little bit trickier, and you gotta either know the word or have heard it before. Now, when it comes to adjectives, the same idea applies, but the adjective changes depending on what's describing. And again, we have O for masculine words and A for feminine words. And then there's a bunch of adjectives that end with E. How do you process this? I know it's kind of like, why? And it's difficult sometimes to get your head around. But the idea is this. You're learning new words. So you're thinking, how do I say beautiful? And you go on a dictionary and it says bello. The dictionary is always giving you the masculine version of a word. So now that you see the dictionary says bello, you kind of see, oh, that's a word that has O ending for masculine, which means you can assume that it has an I ending for feminine. So, un telefono bello, a beautiful telephone. It's a bit silly, but oops. Una penna bella. I'm describing the pen as bella because the pen is feminine. I'm describing the telephone as bello because the telephone is masculine. Now, let's say you look up a word and say, how do I say interesting. And the dictionary says interessante. That kind of rings your alarm and says, ooh, if the masculine doesn't end with O, that means it's good news, really. It means that I can use this word for masculine and feminine without changing it. So I can say un telefono interessante, an interesting telephone, e una penna interessante. So I'm using the same word to describe both. So inglese, if you say, how do you say English? And the dictionary says you say inglese. Well, that tells you that the word for English ends with e, which means it's good for masculine and feminine. Okay, so that's how you kind of work it. Again, would it be a horrible mistake if you're in Italy and you say io sono ingleso? No, because the context would make it clear that you're describing yourself, and an Italian would say, okay, well, he said ingleso because he's a man, I understand the mistake. Some mistakes are understandable. The main thing, excuse me, with making mistakes in Italian, especially with the vowel, is that you create a different word, not that you are not understandable. Okay, so if I said, if I'm a man and I said io sono australiana, yeah, you might get a few giggles because I just described myself as an Australian woman, but again, you are understood. So it's not as big a deal as changing, as saying oops. It's not as bad as confusing pasto with pasta. Now, of course, you're not going to confuse pasta because you have that word in English. But I'm just picking an example that you can easily wrap your head around. Pasta is one thing, and pasto is another thing. So, you don't want to be talking about a pasto when you're talking about a pasta, because pasto means meal. Now, it happens to be related to pasta, but Italian, a single vowel can change a word so much that it's crazy. Porto, porta. Porta is a door, and porto is a port, is a harbor. So you don't want to confuse those things. But again, as you're describing things, it's more forgivable to make a mistake. All right, so the answer to Ed is it doesn't really matter if you say l'italiano or italiano. Now, you'd also would like to know the word for bathroom. You have a few options like toilette, gabinetto, and bagno. I'm going to write them for everybody. We talk about the toilet as la toilette, il gabinetto, and il bagno. So which one do you use? There's also another one. Il vici, that W say, it's water closet. It's an old way of saying toilet. And it's in Italian, it's pronounced il vici. Now, il vici, it's probably only used on trains. Now, you don't have to use it, don't have to learn the word, but toilets on the train will say WC outside often. So it's il vici. I actually think in Italian we spell toilette like that. It's a French word, but I think we stuff it up. Anyway, la toilette, not very common, so I would say don't worry about it. Il vici, not very common, don't worry about it. So it's between il gabinetto and il bagno. I think it's got to do with regional Italian. I think in the south we tend to call it il bagno. And you might hear il gabinetto in the north more. They're both good. I use il bagno. So if I want to say where is the toilet, I say, oops, wrong scribble. I say dov'è il bagno? Where is the bathroom? Where is the toilet? Dov'è il bagno? I think what you'll find is that gabinetto probably is more clear because it refers to the loo where you go and do your number 1 and number 2. Whereas il bagno, I mean, it's the same thing, but il bagno can be more confusing because il bagno could be the place where you shower. Bagno is a bath. So, but honestly, nobody gets confused these days. So you can use il bagno or il gabinetto. Really, they're equally good. You know, some people could even use a little euphemism and say I servizi, the services. So, you know, in the context of a restaurant, scusi, dove sono I servizi? Where are the services? It means the restroom. But I say for ease, you can either say il gabinetto o il bagno. Okay. What else have we got? So I especially like the vital phrases you have highlighted, like che significa and come si dice. Can you suggest other phrases I can memorize to get me out of situations where I am confused by what is being said to me? Yes, great, great. So we're talking about che significa, what does it mean? And come si dice, how do you say that word in Italian? Now, realistically, come si dice is not as useful because it implies that they know English and they understand what you're saying. So come si dice apple in Italiano? Well, it implies that they know apple. So if you're talking with a friend who knows English, but you're in Italy and you're there to work on your Italian and they are happy to talk to you in Italian to help you with your Italian, then you can use the come si dice. But most of you will go to Italy as travelers talking to strangers. So probably che significa is more useful, which means what does it mean? So if you hear somebody says tazza, you know, let's say you order a cappuccino, say vorrei un cappuccino or prendo un cappuccino, and they might say in tazza or in bicchiere. Now you know the word for bicchiere, it means glass, but you don't know the other one. Then you can say che significa tazza? Che significa tazza? And then say, oh, tazza è questa. And they'll show you a cup or a mug. So that's how you would learn more words. But how do you get out of situations where you don't know? Okay. Of course you're going to say scusi. Scusi, non capisco. Excuse me, I don't understand. Scusi, non capisco. Capisco means I understand, so non capisco, I don't understand. Now you could also say, oh, I'm sorry for the typing, I know you can hear it quite loud, but there's no other way of doing it. Non ho capito. It's the same thing, so you say scusi, non ho capito. It actually, this is the past tense, it means I have not understood. So it's like saying I didn't get it. You can use either one. I think non ho capito is more common because somebody says something and you say, scusi, non ho capito, excuse me, what was that? So most of the times you're going to say the phrase in the past, like non ho capito. Whereas non capisco is more useful if I am not understanding as you keep talking. Like, for example, scusi, non capisco l'italiano, I don't understand Italian. Like, it's more of a general statement, but they're both good for I don't get it. Easiest one, scusi, excuse me, scusi. Now another easy one that it's kind of it's just as rude as the English what, but you know there are times when you can say che, it's like what. You could use that. It's not the best way, but you know obviously it's still it's a nice way. Okay, I just wanna give a big hi and ciao to Cheryl. She's having internet connections with the iPad, so sorry she couldn't join us. Okay, what else? What else can you say if you don't get it? I think these are the biggest ones, like non capisco, non ho capito, scusi, che? And another easy one. One word. Come? Come? It's like saying come means how, but it can often be used as a what, and now it's less rude as than che. So come, of course you can make it nicer with come scusi, what was that? Excuse me? So come, how's that? Cool. So come scusi, what was that? So these are the really good ones that you can use if you don't get it. Now, of course, if you want more stuff, like we're getting into a bit more complex expressions. Può ripetere, two words, può, can you, and ripetere, you probably get that one. Può ripetere, can you repeat? Scusi, può ripetere? Another one that it's kind of complex, but some of you will be able to handle stuff like this. Some of you say, "Ah, that's too much." That's okay. I'm focusing. The main thing is I teach the stuff that you can easily pick up, and then Q&As are more open to what your needs are, so you can ask me anything. Oops. I'm very bad at spelling sometimes. Actually. Può parlare più piano. You got two words that are similar with an accent. They're funny, but può, can you? Parlare, speak. Più, more. Piano. Piano means a few things. Piano, well, because it's a pianoforte. Piano means low volume, like whispered piano, as in the opposite of loud. That's why you got piano and forte, because forte means loud, so pianoforte. But piano also means slow. It's just as incorrect as saying, can you speak more slow, instead of can you speak more slowly, which is the correct one. The correct one in Italian would be lentamente, but honestly, most people these days are saying può parlare più piano. So can you speak more slow? It's just as bad, but it's acceptable. Può parlare più piano, and it's easier to remember. Può parlare più piano? Now, every time you ask him for something, you can always add per favore. Makes it polite. And then you can add scusi before to get their attention and say, excuse me. So everything I teach you is like between scusi and per favore, pretty much. Now, if you really can't remember the può parlare più piano, which is too long, you can shorten it to più piano, per favore, più piano. If you do this with your hands, you're telling them to slow down. I don't know if this is cross-cultural, but I guess più piano, more slow. That would also get you out of a situation. Okay. Oh, Cheryl, good to see you. You're on the PC. I'm so sorry that this thing is not working on iPad. Please do let me know if other of you are experiencing problems with iPads. Okay. Laurie, I like your question. It made me laugh a little bit. It's a good laugh. So, so you'd be interested in funny things that you could say to distract people from your errors, because I fear that you might be lost as you struggle to be understood. So things like, please excuse me if I sound silly, but things you could say to compliment someone, like noting their smile and say, sorry, your smile is so wonderful, I can't remember the word in Italian. Or, sorry, your smile is so wonderful, I didn't hear you the first time, can you repeat that? I honestly think this is a great question, and it's a great tool. Now, of course, see, my situation is a bit weird because I'm Italian born and raised, but then I've been in Australia for 14 years. I mean, I go to Italy every year, and I'm also Australian nationality. So I can put myself in your shoes in many situations, but often as an Italian, I can't put myself fully in your shoes thinking, what would you struggle with, or what would your question be? So at any point in time, feel free to reach out to me either here or via email and ask me, I think I would need to say this, and I'll let you know, because that's a great way of feeling more comfortable in a foreign language. And I think you hit the nail on the head here, Laurie, because there's always a ton of phrases that you could say to buy time, instead of going quiet and panic. Say a phrase that it's like a set phrase. Like if I asked you a question, like in English, if I ask you something and you don't know the answer, you could say, well, that's an interesting question. You just bought a few seconds, right? So think of sentences that you would feel comfortable if you had those sentences in Italian, because they buy you time. And these are great sentences. So I think the one that you find useful, to say something like, please excuse me if I sound silly. Where is it? Forse è una domanda stupida, ma forse, maybe, è, it is, una domanda, it's a question. So maybe it's a question, what kind of question? Stupida. So maybe it's a stupid question, but, forse una domanda stupida, ma, and then your question. Okay. What other things could you say? I think that would be a very useful one. Forse una domanda stupida, ma, because we use it a lot. And I will translate your, please excuse me if I sound silly, but. Now, then you said funny things like, sorry, your smile is so wonderful, I can't remember the words in Italian. Probably make it a bit simpler. Mi sono dimenticata. Oops. No, because this is difficult stuff. Okay, so if you think it's beyond your level, don't worry. Okay. Scusi, excuse me. You could throw in a ma. Scusi, ma, excuse me, but your smile. Ma il suo sorriso, your sorriso, smile. Got it here today. Scusi, ma il suo sorriso è così bello, is so beautiful, che mi sono dimenticata, that I forgot, that's the past tense, we don't know that yet, la parola in italiano, the word in Italian. Could you simplify that? Yeah, of course. You could say, scusi, all right. Oops. Scusi, mi sono distratta. Excuse me, I got distracted. Now, all these sentences are for a woman. So if it was a man speaking, scusi, mi sono distratto. Scusi, mi sono distratta. Excuse me, I got distracted. And then you can bring up the sorriso or whatever, whatever thing you could use as an excuse of being distracted. Okay, and then you wanted to know one more thing. Quindi, scusi, il suo sorriso, again, è così bello che non ho, oops, che non ho, I would say che non ho capito. Same thing as before. Scusi, il suo sorriso è così bello, excuse me, your smile is so beautiful, che non ho capito la prima volta, che non ho capito, that's the expression I was sharing with you before, that I didn't understand, la prima volta, the first time, la prima volta. Può ripetere? Can you repeat? Now, you might be at different levels out there, so it's like a little, it's not a warning, okay? Not a warning. I mean, I love going beyond my level, and how would I say that? But try not to go too far beyond your level because you might scare yourself off. Like right now I've given you such a long sentence and it might scare you off. So always try and express, right now you don't know a lot of Italian, but always try and express yourself with the Italian you know, and then trying to add a few bits and pieces every now and then, and have an arsenal of pre-made phrases to help you fill in the blanks. Of course, you will learn and you will expand your arsenal, but don't start thinking, how would I say, if I won $1 million, I would definitely move to Italy. That's a really, really difficult sentence to come up with. So for now, don't try it. All right, so, there's so many more questions. Oh my God. All right. So you also want to know, Laurie wants to know about le strisce pedonali. Le strisce pedonali, which is, this is part of your top 400 Italian words where we learn 12 new words every day. It's one of your bonuses. I'm not sure you're all accessing it. I mean, it's available, but I don't know if you're aware of it. And you want to know, because the strisce pedonale is plural. Now, we haven't seen the plural yet, but yes, it is a plural phrase. And why is it plural? Because strisce means stripe. So when you look at the crossing, it's made up of many stripes. It's not one stripe, it's many stripes. I don't know how many, it depends on the width of the road, I suppose. But that's why it's plural, it's the pedestrian stripes. So that's why it's plural. Is it ever singular? No. You don't cross on a stripe, pretty much. It's always the stripes. Okay. Now, for guys, domani, that's who's asking the question, it would be sono italiano, but for girls, sono italiana. See? That's for guys, and that's for girls. Now, domani is in doubt about this. Does a man say sono, and does a woman say sona? Never. Gender applies to nouns mainly, and adjectives as a reflection of the noun because the description matches what you're describing, but verbs don't change. So a man would say sono, meaning I am, and a woman says sono as well. So sono doesn't change. That means I am, and it doesn't have a masculine or a feminine. Great question. So you want to know a little bit more about endings? Well, I've already talked about this. Great. So if you ask, for example, are you hot? Would it be lei è caldo or sei caldo? So this got to do with formality and casual talk. So, oops. We can address people casually or formally. In your case, most of the times you'll be talking formally to people. That's why we're going to focus on the lei. Lei means you, ma'am, you, sir. It's one word that already means you, sir, you, ma'am. Like, it's very polite. When we address somebody with formality, we talk to them in the third person. So it's like talking to the queen, like Her Highness, Her Majesty. So it's weird, but we do that. So when we say lei è, if I talk to you formally, I'm going to learn to say è for you are. Now, è also means it is, so it's versatile. You can use it for it is, she is, he is, and you are. Same word, è, lei è. And then you are whatever, bello, you're handsome. Well, it's a bit silly to say, you're handsome, but it doesn't matter. Sei bello, that means you, my friend, are you handsome? Sei bello? I'll give you a more useful word, actually. Stanco, tired. Because you probably will be tired in Italy because you'll do a lot of walking, a lot of walking. And Italy is very hilly. So, sei stanco means, hey, you're tired? When you're talking to a close friend or a child or a family member, if you have Italian family members, and really close friends. Sei stanco means, are you tired? Now, if I was talking to a woman, what would I say? Oops. Sei stanca, because she's a woman. Now, if I'm talking to a person formally, which is what you're going to do, you will address them as lei, which means you're going to say lei è, and then stanco for a man and stanca for a woman. Now, your example, domani, doesn't work because, so you use the word caldo for hot, and it's correct, but caldo, yeah, it describes like a cup of tea, tè caldo, hot tea. Now, by the way, if you think caldo is confusing because it sounds like cold, caldo means hot, and it's like the word scalding. So it's a scald is when you burn something with heat. So that's what's related to, though. Don't relate it to cold because it means the opposite. Okay. Cold is freddo, as in freeze, freezing. Okay. Always try to find an English word that has the same beginning because it comes from the same Latin word most of the time. The reason that your example doesn't work, lei è caldo, lei è freddo, is when when we're asking people whether they're hot, we actually use the verb to have. So I know it sounds funny, but we would say, do you have the heat? And I know, Laurie, you're probably laughing right now. So we'll have to say, do you have heat? Lei ha caldo. Now, heat and hot is the same word, so it's not a problem, but we actually use the verb to have, which we haven't seen. So your specific example didn't work, but yes, you would be right by saying lei ha caldo, sei caldo. You could use either one depending on whether you're formal or informal. Now, more questions. Okay. All right. Okay, see, so like I'm just going through all the questions, and now I'm getting all the hello, I'm here. Oh, Ed wants to know, in reply to grazie, can we also say di niente or non è niente? So again, grazie, thank you. Yes, you can say di niente, which literally means of nothing, so for nothing. It's not rude, it means that there's nothing to thank me about. So it's the same as non c'è di che, but it's easier. Grazie di niente. Non è niente, we can't say that. Remember before I spoke about non fa niente? But that's what we say when somebody is sorry. If they say mi dispiace, then you can say non fa niente, no big deal. But yes, you can answer grazie with di niente. Okay, so all right. So Sakis, Dionysius, thanks for recommending Word Reference. It's great. They also have a mobile app, that's true, which I downloaded, and it's also great for when I'm on the road. Yeah, I love using apps. Oh, I don't know what I would do without technology. I wouldn't be here talking to you, really. Okay. All right. Well, at some point, Cheryl said, great question, Laurie. Surely it was. Okay. And all right, so yeah, going back to what I was saying about finding phrases that you can use to buy time, it's a great tool. So as you're progressing, start thinking, okay, if I was in this situation, what would I say to fill in the blanks? To fill in the space. So place yourself in different contexts and say, okay, well, in English I would say, you know what? Let's do this. Yeah. So like that. You know what? How would we say? Sa che le dico? No, sa che le dico. Sa means do you know? Che it's that or which or what. And then le dico means I say to you. Now this is the formal version. Now, in most cases, you wouldn't say you know what to us. Remember, Italian talk to each other very formally. So probably you wouldn't say to a stranger that you're addressing formally, like, you know what. So probably it's more of a casual sentence, but you might make friends in Italy, so you may have to learn how to talk to people casually. So the second sentence is the casual version. Sai che ti dico? You know what I tell you? So there's a couple of differences. The sa becomes sai, which is the verb, Sa is the third person and sai is the second person of the verb. I hope you've done verbs. The hardest thing in Italian, so once you understand them, everything is easier. Sai che ti dico, and that ti means to you, whereas the le means to lei. So it's kind of beyond the scope of the course, but I know that many of you are interested in actually progressing with Italian, so this is probably something you can appreciate. So are there any more questions? We have another, probably 10 minutes to discuss anything that is on your mind. I know it'll take a minute or so before you can hear my question of any more questions. So in the meantime, I will talk to you about tomorrow's live chat. Now, I decided to go with Zoom.us. Now, I don't think there's going to be a lot see, right now there was 5 students from your classroom, virtual classroom, because of the time and all those things. So 5 people, we could even use Google Hangouts, because Google Hangouts allows 10 people to be video chatting. That would require you to create a Gmail account. I don't know. I mean, I decided to go with Zoom. It's the main reason I did this is that I know that Cheryl has problems with iPad, and if we use Google Hangouts, it would be no different from this webinar, but you would be also part of the video chat, and there would be little windows with everybody's face at the bottom. But if Cheryl is having problems streaming on iPad, we don't want that. So the beauty of Zoom.us is that it's a little software. It's an application. It's an app for iPhone, for Android phone, and for Mac and PC. So probably it will work more easily for everybody. And you do have to install a little bit of software, a little piece of software, but it's really small and it's really easy to use. So what are we going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, well, now there's more stuff that you learned this week. Okay, you will learn how to order from a restaurant. We'll talk about places where you can eat in Italy. And I'm not going to give you advice on go to that restaurant, even though I do mention my favorite ice cream place in Rome. But it's what types of establishments can you go to find food, and what price level are you going to find, depending on the level. So we'll discuss that, and then we'll get ordering from a menu and understand how the menu looks like in Italy and so on. But tomorrow we'll practice being polite to each other, greeting each other, and then we'll order from a cafe menu, which is a little bit easier than a restaurant menu, which is what you've done now. Once we've practiced this, if you're participating in the chat, well, it's going to be great for you because you get to get my feedback on a number of things, on your pronunciation, on ways that can help you understand more, and ways that you can speak more. So it's really useful, because as much as my recorded sessions are one-on-one, face-to-face tutoring classes, like my goal is to make you feel like you're sitting down with me and I'm your teacher, and that's why there's no editing and they're not like a commercial enterprise production. It's just me talking to you as you are my student. But of course, when you're in front of me, you ask questions, and then we can take the lesson to different places, and plus you get to practice, which is really, really essential for a language, because you got to speak to Italians. So, but in case you can't be there at the live chat, which is same time tomorrow, it's going to be recorded, and you'll find there's so much value in watching or re-watching, if you were there, the interaction, because inevitably I will teach you new things. And so if you want to learn more but you can't attend, please do watch it later, because it's gonna give you the skills that you need to use the Italian that you have learned and the Italian that you will learn in the next few weeks. It's amazing how a few weeks can really build up to a point where you feel comfortable. Of course, you're not gonna go there and understand everything. You're not gonna go there and be able to say everything, but the difference between you being able to understand what's going on and express yourself, it's invaluable. I'm just wrapping up because I don't think there's any more questions. But I taught myself Japanese in 4 weeks. Now, of course, I don't speak Japanese right now because it's a language that I haven't used afterwards. But I didn't want to go to Japan, which is very similar to Italy in so many ways. It's a culture that is built around food and family. It's a culture that is a contradiction between tradition and modernity. And also it's a culture where they don't speak English mostly. So when I was going to go to Japan, I really didn't want to go there not knowing Japanese. And so I dedicated 4 weeks of my time to learning Japanese. I learned this little, But with Japanese, you also have to learn how to read the characters, which I learned, I think, 1,000 out of the compulsory 2,000, just to get an idea of what's going on. But the idea is that the point is, in 4 weeks, I got myself to the level where I could go to Japan and kind of be okay and be understood and be able to kind of ask for the things that I wanted. I felt so great, and it was one of my best holidays. So I wish that for you to go to Italy and have the best vacation you've ever had. It's possible, and you'll definitely enjoy it. So thanks so much for joining me. Grazie mille. Ok, grazie mille e ci vediamo domani. I'll see you tomorrow. Ci vediamo domani. Ciao ciao e un saluto e a domani. Ciao ciao.